when you have this kind of knowledge, about these things, and you've done calculations and you've done the homework, and you know how far these objects come from and what it took to get them there and how precise they are and all this. It's just it just blows your mind that some archaeologists, and that's what's really exciting, is that's all changing right now, and I'm so glad it is. So this is the Valley Temple. So this is like not too far from the Sphinx. The Sphinx is to the right of this. Looking at it from the front like this, the the pyramids are in the back, like further back on the plateau. We're kind of below in more of the valley, and the Valley Temple is just one of the most remarkable example of what I believe, and geologists and Egyptologists and some archaeologists believe is pre-dynastic Egypt. It's actually pre-cataclysmic Egypt, meaning pre-flood, ice age, meltdown of the ice age time. It dates, like, at the minimum, probably long before dynastic Egypt, like 10 to 12,000 years old. Some geologists say the erosion on these blocks show much, much more ancient origins, that can extend to like 80,000 years old, but that's a whole other story. But look at these blocks. I mean, this is still a picture, but I've been waiting for 25 years to take this picture properly. It's just like, look at these blocks. Those are 200-ton blocks. Of here, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but above Anka here, these are blocks that weigh in excess of 200 tons. They're in the material that's found on the plateau. So it's local material. It's most likely, and in fact, some of these blocks we know for a fact came from the enclosure of the Sphinx. When the Sphinx was sculpted, they had to cut into the bedstone of the Giza Plateau, and so it's limestone, but it's layered limestone, and so you can see the layers, and you can place where the blocks came from in the enclosure. Now, if you were sculpting the Sphinx out today with our modern tools, I guarantee you would not be removing 200-ton blocks and then stacking them, on top of each other to build a temple. You would not be doing that. You would be chipping little blocks, maybe a few hundred pounds, so that it's manageable. A 200-ton block like this requires one of those cranes that's like a bridge crane, that has two ends to it. They're immense. They roll on very specific tracks, on their very specific rails. They don't go very far. Moving these objects is significantly difficult, even with the best technology we have today. So I assure you, the people that did this, of course, had the means to move these objects in some ways that are not the standard, pulling on vine ropes, 100,000 slave, whatever. It just isn't. And so if that was not enough, now you have in front of it the casing. So these blocks, these immense blocks, were encased in granite, in pink granite block that produce a perfectly smooth surface on the outside of the temple and the inside of the temple. And these blocks are non-trivial as well. They're like 70 ton, 100 ton, 120 ton, and they come from Aswan. They come from almost 1,000 kilometers away. you know, which is again very non-trivial to bring that in. It's, you know, and then, you know, and then you have, not only are the 200-ton blocks very large, but they're eccentric in the way that they are laid. They're not all the same size. They are not, you know, nicely just stacked onto each other in an easy way. Like there's crazy like curves that are involved, and fitting that are involved, and so on. That makes it so that these objects are actually very fitted in such a way that they are very resistant to earthquakes and to any alteration. There is internal structures that we see inside this temple that, you know, is extremely difficult to to um, to imagine people doing with copper tools and um, the type of technique that are described. So here, you know, so I'm showing this with Anka there to get a sense of size of the blocks, right? They're very, very large blocks. That's the inside of that same temple, of the Valley Temple. And the blocks, okay, are not just stacked so that the walls of the internal blocks are self-standing. They're stacked so that the stones turn the corner of the walls, so that you know, otherwise if they were stacked like we would stack them, they would each wall would end up being self-standing, but in this case the stone actually turned the corners so that the walls are intricately connected, so that they are earthquake resistant as well, and are better resonance cavity. So imagine a block that size. You know, I thought it was nice that they made me a little niche for my water there, but a block that size, okay, and you've removed basically a whole layer of the block, you see, so that you can turn the corner with the block, you know, is a remarkable thing. And you can see the block above does that too, right? The blocks are turning the corners, right? And so it's very, you know, I mean, it just goes on.